In over 20 years of English teaching, I've heard one question again and again, and this has been asked by students, by teachers, by trainers, and even I think I've asked this question myself, which is, am I speaking correct English? But before we can answer that question, we need to think really critically about what we mean by correct, but also we need to think about who decided what correct means anyway when it comes to the English language. Therefore, in this tutorial, I'm going to look at some parts of the story that are often left out about how we got here with the idea of correct English. We'll look at where standards actually came from, because standards are an important part to this conversation. We'll look at the role that government, writing and printing played in this, and we'll look at why one form of English became associated with education, authority, and also social class. Importantly, we'll think about what does this mean for English language teachers today living in a globalized world of international English. Because standard English did not become standard simply because it was better or because it was clearer or more logical. It became standard because of history, institutions, circumstances, and also, of course, power. So I'm going to structure this tutorial from questions which you have asked us. And the first question that we're going to start with is, what do people mean when they say correct English? Okay, let's think about this then. When people say correct English, they maybe think they mean it's about spelling, it's about grammar, it's about linguistic features and syntax of a language. But often when someone asks this question, they're also talking about education, class, authority, and sometimes even national identity. So the question of correct English is sometimes often about the speaker themselves, and this is something which we're going to come back to. Let's move on to our second question, which is, did standard English emerge because it was better? Okay, the answer to that obviously is going to be no, it didn't. Standard English did not win from other varieties because it was more logical, more beautiful, because it was the correct version of English. It actually came from a variety from the Midlands. And the Midlands is in England. And guess where about in the country the Midlands are or is? It is in the middle of England. So at the time, it was thought that because this variety is in the middle of the country, it's going to have the widest appeal across the country. This variety was then influenced by government clerks in London, by royal administrators, and this had a big effect because of the power that these people had as the only literate people in society at the time, because they used it, they adapted it to help suit them, and that's what gave it power. And then it became powerful itself. Another question we need to answer, which we were asked, and I'm going to slightly adapt it, is what is the difference between written and spoken English? And I'm going to adapt this a little bit to think about how did printing help fix the form of English, because written forms and spoken forms are not the same. Spoken forms of any language are actually really adaptable and dynamic, but written forms are different because once they're written down, they become fixed. So when the printing press came along, printing helped to stabilize written forms, and that will happen in any society. So an important individual in this process was called Caxton, and he had to choose forms that would reach the widest variety of readers when things started to be printed, such as the Bible. So he used an administrative variety already in play as the form and the code which he was going to use in printing books. Printing helped make certain spellings, certain grammar, certain patterns and written conventions more durable and widespread. So what we see is that once printing enters the story, language starts to look more fixed than it really is. And a choice is made for practical reasons here. So in terms of like readership and to reach the widest number of people, that can start to make something look like it's correct when it's actually just merely a choice. Another question that we had is standard English the same as RP? And the answer to that is no. Standard English is mainly about grammar, vocabulary, and written conventions, as we have covered, but RP is an accent. But socially, people often connect Standard English to RP meaning received pronunciation. But they also connect this to education, to the BBC, to authority, and to this kind of middle class respectability. And this is where language ideology begins to become visible. So, the question which I'm going to add in here is, why is Standard English an ideology, not just a neutral description? Standard language ideology makes one variety seem normal, correct, education, or maybe superior, and this means that other varieties then get positioned as wrong, as broken, informal, or even less intelligent. This affects people a lot. It affects learners' confidence. It affects teachers' confidence. It affects what teachers choose to correct in their correction practices. And, it means that some Englishes are treated as if they are not legitimate. So when one form of English is treated as neutral, other forms often start to look like they are deviations. And someone once told me that I was speaking a variant, I think it was, of English, but it's just not the case. When you hear something like this, you're not hearing a linguistic fact, you're actually experiencing ideology in practice right in front of you. Let's think then about international English, because we had a question about this, and the question was, how do we teach English as an international language? So let's face it, millions of people use English across borders today, and in real international communication, speakers adapt, they clarify, they negotiate, and they repair meaning. And the goal is not always to imitate a native speaker, and nor should it be. The goal should actually be intelligibility, because that matters. So if English is an international language, then no single nation can fully own it. That changes what we mean by correct. Let's talk a little bit more then about language ideology. And what we see with language ideology is a double standard. So when so-called native speakers bend the rules of English, we will often call this like creativity. But when non-native speakers do the same things, this might be seen as an error. And this tells us something that's really important, because it shows that correctness is not always about communication. If we go back to the very beginning and think about spelling and grammar and linguistic facets of the language, actually, when we think about correctness and communication, it's about the person that is speaking. And have a look around you on YouTube. Have you ever seen anyone with a British flag or an American flag behind them? And that person is trying to tell you something. They're trying to send you a signal that says, I speak correct English just because I do, and I'm going to tell you how to speak. That is language ideology playing out right in front of you. Next question up then is, what should TESOL teachers actually do about this? And the answer is not to stop teaching standard English. The answer actually is to stop pretending that it's neutral, because it's not. Think critically about what is happening in front of your very eyes, and it will empower you. Give it a try. I promise you, it will empower you. All right, let's move on and think about what might this look like in practice. And this was not a question that you sent us. This is a question that I added. And what we should do in this circumstance is use more than one accent in listing materials. We want to use different varieties and ask students what they think is associated with good English. Set up a discussion with that prompt. You want to maybe compare formal written English with spoken international English and get students used to seeing these two differences. You might always also want to discuss when accuracy matters and when intelligibility actually matters a lot more. I would really encourage you to ask students about who is the audience when I'm speaking, what is the context I'm speaking in, and what is the purpose of me in this speech event? What English do I need to use, and who will I be speaking it to? What English will they use in return? Is a native speaker even present in this situation? Probably you'll find that in most cases they won't be. Okay, let's get to the key message of this tutorial, and that is that standard English is real in its social consequences, but that does not mean it's naturally superior in any way, because it's not. Standard English did not emerge because it was the best variety of English. It emerged through writing, administration, education, printing, class, power, and just because of circumstances. That does not mean we ignore it. Learners often need to use standard Englishes to pass exams, write academically, apply for jobs, and access some kind of power structure. But what we need to do is to be critical in our thinking about this. As TESOL practitioners, we need to try to teach language honestly. We need to ask, like, standard for whom? And who decided that this is going to be a standard? I think that your students will actually love those kind of questions. And one big question for you as a teacher, which also you could pass on to your students, is language ideology at play here? I bet that it probably is. Hey, if you found this useful, I'd recommend watching our episode on the 10 methods that shape TESOL because you might be interested in a few of our picks there. Please subscribe to TESOL with Mickey and Ida because most of our viewers are not subscribed and that is hurting us a little bit. So please hit that subscribe button and you'll find out more about TESOL theory explained really clearly. Please put your comments below. What do your learners associate with correct English? I genuinely would be interested to know. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in our next episode.